Hey, what's going on, guys? James here bringing you another YouTube video, and this one is going to be another episode of my universe reactions. Though this is going to be different, and it's going to be less reacting and more me giving insight and thoughts on what happened in the past, because it's time for us to get to the first pay-per-view that Tyson and I ever ran in a universe mode, which was the Extreme Rules pay-per-view in WWE 2K16. It wasn't a long show. I think we had like 8 or 9 matches, maybe. And the way I did the pay-per-view at the time, and I need to bring this up for backstory and everything, because it'll help explain why I'm doing it this way. So at the time, to edit the videos, I was only using Windows Movie Maker, because this was a time where, again, I was getting a very basic and slow grasp on editing. So that's how I was doing it, and at the time, I guess I've never liked doing wrestling pay-per-views in multiple parts. It just has never been for me. When I do it, I just want like one long show. And at the time with Movie Maker, the way it worked, it was going to take forever to render the video. So I didn't like that. So I was like, okay, I'll do multiple parts. And then I was like, I don't know. So then I decided to not do that, despite having technically all the footage done. Because I was really dumb, and I was just dumb and stubborn at the time. But then I decided, no, let's not do that. Came up with a convoluted and terrible story idea where I brought Eric Bischoff in, had him buy the WWE out from Vince McMahon. And again, I don't even know how that would even work, honestly. And had that happened, and ran with a very bad invasion storyline that I'm hoping no one checks out, because it's terrible. It's fucking awful. Don't watch it, please. Please don't. But yeah, and that's what happened, and we'll get to that when we get to that. I will talk about that in depth. As much as I don't want to, I will. But what I want to do is talk about the Extreme Rules card, the 2 matches that you did see, and the rest of the show that you did not, despite the fact that it was done. So the first thing we kicked off on, and I talked about it in a previous one, it was a one-on-one tables match between T-Ice, the rookie, and Dean Ambrose, and it was a number 1 contenders match for the U.S. title. Now, I talked about this before, like I said, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. T.I.'s had not done a whole lot because he's a rookie, and he was within his first just few weeks within wrestling in the original universe. And yeah, like I said, it didn't make a whole lot of sense. He hadn't done a whole lot, and like he shouldn't have been going for a shot right away. But he did, nonetheless. He got the win over Seth Rollins, and Dean Ambrose had no success. He had not won, and this is a match that honestly didn't need to be on the pay-per-view at all. I think overall, if I wanted to roll with this, it could have worked, but yeah, like I said, it didn't need to be on the pay-per-view, first and foremost. And it was a tables match because Tyson and I at the time didn't have a lot of stuff that felt extreme for the pay-per-view, so we said, let's make this one a tables match. Which plays off the fact that one of Tyson's favorite match types, like match stipulations, is a tables match, so that also is why we did that too. But yeah, like I don't have a whole lot more that I want to talk about. First and foremost, I guess really what I'm trying to get at is, I guess I said what I wanted to say about it. Like gave the reason why it was a tables match, because we didn't have anything too extreme on the show anyway. And yeah, all we really had was just T.I.'s versus, or like I said, I think the match could have been fine had we done it on Raw. But as it stands, there's no reason for this match to actually be on pay-per-view. And I think a lot of it does come down to the fact that we only had the 3 weeks before this pay-per-view. Because what we should have done, knowing that I ended up doing the tournaments, again, that you didn't see, and which gave us only 3 real weeks to book. should have pushed the Extreme Rules pay-per-view back one more week, had 4 weeks, and then had we actually done the Bragging Rights pay-per-view, which again, I will explain why we didn't in just a little bit. We could have then had a 3-week build to that, because we don't need as much build-up for something like that. But yeah, it was a big problem. The match itself I guess is fine. Like, we could have made it work. It should have been on Raw instead of on pay-per-view. And then after that, we had the tag team. I'm gonna take the headphones out. But after that, we had the tag team match between Kid and Cesaro and the New Day for the tag team titles. And again, it's one that on paper is fine. I just wish that I wouldn't have done it right away. Because yes, they did beat the tag champs, the New Day, on the last episode of Raw before the pay-per-view, but we shouldn't have done that, honestly. What we should have done was either have Kid and Cesaro face the Lucha Dragons, since they were the only other team on Raw at the time who had competed and won. Put them up against each other, maybe do a one-on-one match and lead into a tag match on the pay-per-view, number 1 contenders, or even if we would have done Lucha Dragons, Kid and Cesaro, and put the winners then against New Day at the pay-per-view, at least that's a little more build-up, instead of giving the pay-per-view match away for free on Raw. I mean, technically we're giving the thing away for free anyway, but instead of doing the pay-per-view match on Raw and then immediately doing it again on pay-per-view. Like I said, the match itself is technically fine, but it's just, I don't know. Not a huge fan, all things considered. And it's something that could have been such a simple fix, too, that we didn't do. So that's kind of like what we were looking at there. And I actually do have, like I said, that match. It's right there in the original Universe playlist. I guess if you want to watch it. Yeah, the actual match itself is right there. I guess I should say first match, T.I.'s did pick up the win. Because he actually hit it was an AI controlled match, and the AI for T.I.'s reversed Dean Ambrose with a drop toe hold, and drop toe holded Dean Ambrose through the table. And then New Day ended up winning, which again is so, like, just typical WWE booking, where, like, Kid and Cesaro won on Raw, and then they lost on pay-per-view. It's like, why that was such a trope at the time, I don't know, but it happened here in the game, so that's something. And then after that, we had Alex Rain and Rusev. And this match, kind of with the other matches as well, especially the first one, like, it shouldn't have happened on pay-per-view. Like, I was even fine with a rematch for this, honestly. But it's something that should have been used more to, like, really build up the characters of Rusev and Alex, and maybe bring Dolph in there, bring T.I.'s in there, since Alex and T.I.'s have started teaming up. Really start developing these characters more, and have it be, like, a big highlight of Raw, and build Raw up that way. Because really, it didn't deserve to be on pay-per-view. Like, there was no reason for it to be on pay-per-view, especially, again, since it just happened on the last Raw before the pay-per-view. And again, it's one of those things where, why would you watch the match on pay-per-view if you just saw the same thing on Raw? Like, it doesn't make sense. And again, also typical WWE booking at the time, Alex lost on Raw, and then he won on pay-per-view because something, I don't know. That's just the way the games worked, I guess, with AI simulations. I don't know. But yeah, like, not a whole lot else to say. I said what I wanted in a previous reaction video. It was one of the first actual storylines Tyson started to book on Raw, and while being extremely basic, I like the concept of it. Having, like, this new guy come in and just, he wants to prove himself. It's very simple. And in the way we booked it, it's like he got a win over Dolph Ziggler, and then he lost to Rusev. And he just wants to keep pushing forward and keep trying to prove himself. And we never rolled with that completely. More my fault than Tyson's fault. And it sucks because we could have done a whole lot with that and really showed him struggle to do so. And eventually work himself up that way. But we didn't get the chance. And again, in terms of pay-per-view matches, we could have really used it to build up the characters and have like a big highlight for Raw. But instead, we got this match, which is exactly the same for the most part as what we had just witnessed on Raw. So it really shouldn't have been on the pay-per-view. From there, what else did we have? Oh, the Triple Threat Divas title match. This match I've always been kind of very lenient towards, and because it's fine. It's one of the better built-up things on the show. And really, yeah, I still stand by. The only issue with it is the fact that I threw Caitlin Rain in the match right away. I mean, she was a rookie and had just debuted, and I think she could have been involved in a way, but like, be in Paige's corner. Put Brie in the corner of Nikki, have Caitlin in the corner of Paige. And yeah, that's what we could have done, and it could have immediately been better. I would have given Paige the win because she had way more build-up, and Nikki really didn't have any build-up at all for the most part. I mean, she had a little bit, having won maybe once or twice on Raw, but she still had just lost in tag action to Caitlin and Paige. So yeah, the match is fine. Just remove Caitlin Rain, maybe make her a manager for Paige, and yeah. And technically, we could have rolled with Nikki winning as well, but I would have given, looking at it now, I would have given the win to Paige. That's what I would have done. But yeah, that's honestly one of the better built-up things, and just kind of take out Caitlin Rain and make it one-on-one. And then from there, we have, oh right, the Mystery Men. Okay. Mystery Men versus Dudleys. So, I very briefly talked about it before. I am not mad at the build-up at all. In execution, with what I actually did on SmackDown at the time, it was bad. But that's just because I didn't know any better, and I really didn't know a better way to go about trying the things I was trying. And that's something, again, in execution, I could make a lot better now. But on paper, looking at it as a concept, I like the ideas, and I would still roll with something very similar now. But one thing I don't like, and I talked about it before, getting so in my head about it, that I decided to not do a tables match. But yeah, like, this match is fine. It had build up. It was perfectly fine. It deserved to be on the show, and ultimately, I should not have kind of like turned my back on the tables match idea and gone with a hardcore match. No. Should have just built up a little bit with Dudleys and tables. Maybe have a segment on SmackDown where the Dudleys get some revenge, putting both of them through tables or something. I don't know. And then, at the end of the day, I would have the Mystery Men, who would reveal themselves to be the Gatecrashers as their tag name. I do think they should have won, which didn't happen on the card. And I guess I should say Nikki also won on pay-per-view, the original version of it. And the Dudleys ended up winning here on the original version of the pay-per-view. I don't like that. They shouldn't have. Because it made no sense. They didn't need the win at all. Because with the Dudleys, giving the Dudleys the win immediately gets rid of any credibility that the Mystery Men could have had. So the Mystery Men should have won. It should have been a tables match. But other than changing those two things, the match was fine. It had build up, and it deserved to have a spot on the show. So I'll say that, and then we move to Intercontinental Title, which again had some build up to it. And at the end of the day, I like the match. I have no idea how the original match went besides Ryback winning. And Breeze should have won. Ryback had really no build-up besides a loss to Breeze on SmackDown. And Breeze had a bunch of build-up. Like, he won the Fatal 4-Way. He beat he won the Fatal 4-Way, he beat the champion, and he only lost to Jericho on SmackDown. So yeah, I should have pretty much, I should have had Breeze win, or I should have had Breeze win the title here, get Ryback out of the title picture, and then roll with either a short feud between Chris Jericho and Breeze, or maybe start building up Breeze versus whoever the U.S. champion would be. If we would have actually done a Bryan Grimes pay-per-view, which again was what we were leading towards. I did announce that. Or maybe try and work the two together and have Jericho be like, because he's Chris Jericho, be like, he doesn't care about Raw or SmackDown. He only cares about himself and he wants the Intercontinental title. Give him the shot, something like that. That's what I should have rolled with. Breeze definitely should have won, but other than that, yeah, the match was fine. It definitely had a place on the card, and I don't have a problem with it. And then we had the World Heavyweight Championship match, Daniel Bryan versus Bray Wyatt, and after Daniel got a win over Bray on the last episode of SmackDown before the show, which again, I shouldn't have done that match, but I did at the time, and I had Daniel say he was going to pick the stipulation and make it an Iron Man match. And because I realized, okay, why am I doing an Iron Man match when the series just started? I had some self-awareness at the time. So I realized that and decided to not do that. And what I did was I brought in Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn and had them attack Bray Wyatt in the back and make him not be able to compete, and the match was called off. And I like the idea, actually. Again, I used to hate that I did that, and used to think it's one of my biggest mistakes, but I've come around on it so much as the years have rolled on, and I really do like it now. I think it works. It makes sense, and I really liked that I was rolling with, one, not only as Kevin and Sami as both heels, but I was rolling with them as a team of heels as well, which is something that, like, I hadn't really seen before, and I knew WWE at the time, it looked like they were never going to do that, so I was like, yeah, let's do that. It seemed very cool. I liked the idea. I rolled with it, and it gave me an instant out for that match from what I also viewed as a bad decision. And I got out of it that way. It made sense because Kevin had constantly been losing and taking pinfalls, so I was able to build up him having just anger issues over all the losses, and he brought his best friend in, who hadn't debuted at the time either, to take out Bray Wyatt, the top contender for the World Heavyweight Championship. And then I could start building them into the main event scene, seeing where that goes, which I would actually do and immediately pick up where I left off right after the invasion story ended. So yeah, I have no problems with this at all, actually. I don't know if I would do the same exact thing when I get back to recreating the original universe for Universe Rewind. I don't know if I will, but yeah, I have no problems with this now, actually. It's something that I do like. And again, the only reason I'll say I don't know if I would do it, again, is just because I don't know exactly how everything I'm gonna book and how I'm gonna do that for Universe Rewind. So I will just have to wait and see from there and see where it kind of leads to once I actually start doing that. And then after that, it would have just been right into the main event, which would have been the triple threat between WWE and US champion Seth Rollins, his top contender Roman Reigns, and also John Cena. And I vividly remember the ending to the original recording for the triple threat. Rollins, I think, had hit the Avada Kedavra on Reigns, went for the pin, and because the AI was just stupid, John Cena had the steel steps in his hands and wouldn't put him down, and he kept trying to break up the pin with him, and it just didn't work, because he was never actually hitting either guy with them. So the pin didn't break up, and Rollins won. That's how it ended originally, and I don't know, I just find it funny. But yeah, like, I would have still rolled with Rollins winning here over Cena and Reigns. The match itself is fine. I do think it should have been a one-on-one, kind of like with the Divas title. The match itself was fine. Cena had a bit of build-up to warrant still being involved in the title scene, but he shouldn't have got the shot here, and honestly, I do think I probably would roll with Ambrose versus Cena, dropping down to the U.S. title scene first, doing that and having the one-on-one between Reigns and Rollins. Though, again, because Cena did at the time have a win over Rollins, you could argue keeping Cena in the world title scene, just not giving him the shot here, which is also valid. And I probably would have rolled with one of those two ideas, not too sure which. And yeah, overall, I do think it should have been a one-on-one, Rollins and Reigns. Could easily roll with Reigns beating Rollins here, especially since he had all the momentum on his side anyway. I do think I would have given Rollins the win. That's what I would have done. Just because I see a little more value in, especially at the time, rolling with Seth Rollins as the world champion over Roman Reigns. Roman is a guy that I'd want to build up more for that first. But that's me. And yeah, that is really it for the Extreme Rules pay-per-view. Not really anything else to say. It's not necessarily a bad show. In fact, I wrote this down. Let me see exactly. So yeah, we had 8 matches. And I don't hate the show. I really don't. I guess to pull it up again, as I'm looking at it, matches that shouldn't have been on the show in general, I would only say 2 of them for the most part. And that's T.I.'s and Ambrose and Alex Reign and Rusev. Those could have been left off the show and maybe just have like a smaller show with them, giving the matches more time or something. Because we could have done something either tag titles or number one contenders for the tag titles. The Divas Championship match, I mean, just remove Caitlyn Rain, maybe put her in the corner of Paige or something, like I said before, and Paige and Nikki can still be on the show for the title. Mystery Men Dudley's just change the stipulation. Breeze and Ryback, I'd say just change the winner. Bray Wyatt and Daniel Bryan with Kevin and Sami attacking Bray in the back. That's perfectly fine to me. And then WWE title, just take Cena out of the pay-per-view match and make it Rollins Reigns one-on-one. So yeah, I think that honestly would have worked. It's not a bad show. I think it has some promise to it. And for our first pay-per-view, like I said, there's a lot of stuff that could have been a lot worse than what we did at the time. So the fact that we had what we had, I don't know, I think that's good. Just because, again, yeah, it could have been a lot worse. But yeah, I guess that's really all I have to say for this show. Yeah, again, sorry we didn't have a whole lot for reactions, actually, but hey, whatever. We do what we do, and that's really it. So that was the Extreme Rules pay-per-view, the first pay-per-view Tyson and I booked in a universe mode. Until next time, I'll see you later. Bye, guys.